I was a preemie, and when I was a month old, I developed whooping cough. And one day I was quite ill, and my mother called the doctor to come out to the farm to check me out. And so he got in his little horse and buggy and came the 9 miles to the farm. And when he left that day, he said, "Mrs. Sawhill, I don't think we can save her." But the great physician had other plans for me, and he healed me. My name is Mabel Sawhill.
And how old are you?
I am 99 years and 3 days.
How does it feel to be 99 years and 3 days?
The same as it did when I was 80 or 90. Gotta melt the butter and then add the sugar. I've been making sticky buns since 1942.
Now, Mabel, you don't measure. I noticed you're not using measuring cups.
Never.
Why do you not use measuring cups?
Because I'm old-fashioned. When I came to Washington, I had the night shift from 4 to 12. And my very good friend was the secretary at the church. And she was a gourmet cook. And this is the way I got started. I would go up and help her cook in the morning before I went to work. Okay, I'm crumbling up the sausage for the stuffing. John Wayne and I have the same birthplace, Winterset, Iowa. My grandfather was a minister, and they called him to the little Pitzer church, and he moved his family from another part of Iowa to Winterset. You know, I did a ruby red chicken, and I tried it like the recipe, and I didn't like it. It seemed to me like it was too dry. So then I put it, you know, beside the chicken when I did this dinner the other night. They thought it was wonderful. This is my baby picture. It was taken when I was 9 months old. There were 5 of us, but I'm the only one that is still living. My oldest brother was Harold, and then the next one was Iola, my sister, then Eleanor, another sister, and then I was next, and then Wilbur was the youngest. We grew up on a farm, and it was great because we had acres and acres to play in. We all had our chores to do. I had to gather eggs. I had to go and bring the cobs in to keep the fire going. We had our own meat. We didn't have to buy meat. We just used our own stock on the farm. And then we would butcher a steer. We would butcher a pig. We had fried chicken and baked chicken and chicken noodles because, you know, my mother would say, we'll go out and catch chicken and get it ready to fry. So I'd go out and catch one and cut its head off. Then I'd have to put hot water over it to take the feathers out and get it all cleaned up and give it to my mother, and she'd cut it up.
was your father like?
He was the greatest man that ever walked this earth. He was wonderful to his family. He was good to everybody, always doing kind things for people. And then when we had to move to Des Moines so Wilbur could go to school, he stayed at the farm and worked to provide a living for the family, because what was a farmer going to do in Des Moines? And so he stayed on the farm, did his own cooking, and every Saturday night he would drive down to Des Moines in his little Ford pickup and spend Sunday with us, and Monday he would go back to farming. This is one of the favorite things that I make. About 40 years ago, I did a wedding, and the little girl lived in Hawaii, and she said, "Mabel, I want Hawaiian food." So she sent me a Hawaiian cooking book, and in that book was this recipe for hot chicken salad. And I would say that I have served it more than anything else I've made. After I retired from the government in '83, when I started, that was when I had this compound fracture and I was in the hospital. And I just said, "God, I've finished working. What do you want me to do?" And he said, "Educate those children," which were Doreen's two girls. Her boy is deaf. And of course, she and her husband are deaf. So I called up the school. I got them in. One was 4 and the other one was 5. One went to pre-kindergarten, the other went to kindergarten. She just gradually worked into it. So I would say, the last, let's see, this is 19. The last 10 years she's been very active with me. But at 99, I really don't think that I've slowed down that much. I can do about as much as I've always done. I sometimes amaze myself at how much I get done, but then I really think for my age and for the gifts that God has so graciously given me, I really can do a lot of things.
This is a great spread.
Thank you. Well, I hope so. I really am amazed at the energy God gives me. Just like the other night when I had to do that food, I started at 12 o'clock and worked until 4 in the morning. And I said, God, I'll have to sleep fast. I come from a family that loved God and wanted to serve Him, and we knew that God was the center of our lives. He was the one that made us tick. 5 country churches I was a member of, the one that my grandfather was the minister of, decided to have a great big revival. They all got together, they put up this big tent, they built these seats that were so hard to sit on it nearly killed you. And every night we went, and the thing I really loved was the singing. Because I loved to sing, and I would just sit there and sing. One night, I was sitting there, and God touched my heart. I didn't say a word to anyone, I just slipped down off of the seat and went down that sawdust trail up to the front and gave my heart to Jesus Christ. On the way home, my father said, now, Mabel, when we get home, we'll go to your room and we'll talk about what you did. And knowing me, I said, well, I know what I did. We are going to Costco to purchase food. We'll lock the little chateau up. Okay, we're off.
How many people are we buying for?
Well, if we buy any of the things for Thursday, we would be buying for about 100 people. The latter part of when I was going into college, and my mother said, Mabel, bring everything home because we have no money to send you back. And when my father came down to get me, he said, what are all these boxes here? And I said, Mom said, no school. He came over and put his arm around me and said, if I have to sell part of the farm in order for you to go to college, you'll be back here next fall. Just leave these things. I went home. I babysat for 10 cents an hour. I worked in a market for 10 cents an hour. I worked in a florist for 10 cents an hour. And then I wrote to college and said, could you give me a part-time job to help pay for my room and board? And they wrote back and said, yes, we'll give you a cleaning job. I was the only one that moved away from Iowa in my immediate family. I was teaching school in Woodside High School in Des Moines. And it was during the war, and everybody was doing their bit for the government. When I received the telegram from Washington, I immediately called my father to ask him what I should do. And he said, Mabel, it's not my decision to make. It's between you and God. I was an administrative assistant to doctors in the Bureau of Medicine and Surgery of the Navy Department. And I said to my students, I'll be back in 2 years, but those 2 years haven't ended. Are you going to put on meat and dressing?
No.
What? That's much better. I could even take a little more salt, but older people. No, I have never been married. I guess I never got married because I idolized my father so, because I thought he was such a wonderful man, and I couldn't find anybody that I thought equaled him. I don't fear that I will lose my independence, because I just have faith that God's going to see me through until he takes me home. I live alone, and I'm very happy being alone, because I can do what I want to when I want to, and when I come in and lock that door at night, nobody's going to bother me. I can do whatever I want to. I have never realized I'm old, mainly because I have a mixture of friends in my life, both young and old, and they're wonderful friends, and they're part of my life, and I just feel like I'll never be old. I may look old, but I don't feel old. I did a dinner the other night, and a lady attended that was 90, also 99, and but her birthday was in August. And I said, oh, you're older. And she said, but I can't do what you do. 9/11, I was doing a luncheon for the Bethesda Women's Club. And while I was there, the announcements came over TV that the planes had hit in New York, and one had hit in Washington, and one had gone into Pennsylvania. And that night, I was supposed to do a dinner at the yacht club downtown in Washington. But they said no one is to come into the district. I had all the food ready, so I put it in my car and started for D.C. Came around until I got to the yacht club, and the Commodore was here and some other people, and he said, I knew you would come. And he said, Mabel, do you think you can have dinner ready in 30 minutes? We're going to feed the firemen and the policemen who are working over at the Pentagon where the plane hit. And I said, we'll have it ready. And so in 30 minutes, 25 police and firemen came over. We fed them dinner. They went back, and then 25 more came over, and we fed them, and they went back. I'm always amazed at people And what they say to me, Mabel, you don't realize how important you are in my life. And I say, how can I be important in your life? Well, when I get tired, I think of you at 98 running around, and here I'm ready to sit down and rest, and I get up and move on. I had to wear all hand-me-downs. I wore my sister's hand-me-downs. And let me tell you what my mother would do when I went to school. She would put an apron over my dress to keep the dress clean. Then she'd turn the apron inside out, and I'd wear it on the other side. Then the third day I could wear the dress, so I had something for 3 days to wear. Clothes became important to me. Well, when I taught school and really had a job and was making a little bit of money, we had a store in Des Moines. It was Wolf's, and that was the high-class store. With my first paycheck, I went down to Wolf's, and because I'd never had a coat, I bought me a beautiful wine-colored coat with a gray fur collar, and I thought I probably was the best-dressed woman in Des Moines. These people in nursing homes have to be very creative. They have to try to find things that will interest these people or that they can do. You know, when I go to see my sister, that, if anything depressed me, it was that. But sometimes when I go, especially if I'm a little tired or weary, you know, I think, oh dear, will I be like this someday?
Someday you're
There's nobody to come to see me because everybody's dead. The only thing of it is all of your people your age are gone, and sometimes you might feel a little lonely because there's no contemporary that you can, go and chat with. But that really doesn't bother me because I can talk with a teenager as well as I can talk with an adult. Oh, I miss a lot of people. And sometimes I think about them and wonder what they're doing up there in heaven. Maybe I should get up there and help them. not pessimistic at all. I can't stand pessimistic people, always worried. I don't want that. Create a good attitude in your mind. Everybody thought when I reached the age of 70 that I should stop. But I've gone on for 30 more years, 29 really. I love to do things for other people because to me that brings great happiness and joy.
Why are you not afraid of dying?
Because I know exactly where I'm going. Because God said, you know, I became a believer when I was young and I took Christ as my Savior. And, you know, He has my place all prepared for me in heaven. Why don't we, let's see, why don't I make hot turkey salad out of one of them for Wednesday night?
What's the one thing you want people to remember you by?
That I love God and I wanted to be His helper. Why'd I do the apricot jello salad? They like that.
How will life be different when you're 100?
It probably won't be any different. I'll just go ahead and work. I like to let it stand in the Italian dressing overnight and marinate.